What's up YouTube? Today I actually did one of the strangest Siruses that I've ever seen. The Sirus literally ran away. He literally ran away into the corner, started hiding inside of his cloud. I guess he wanted nothing to do with the rest of the Expedition League because what a cowardly way to go. I will be showcasing the fight as the pretty much the highlight video clip of the day. But let's get into what this video will be about. So a lot of people ask me about how to craft the helmet and the boots, and I was able to pick up myself a new pair of Nikes or boots, and it's not the best in the world, but it will do for now. So at this point, the character's gear is all pretty much like pretty good at this point. You can do all the content in this game. If you look at the bottom here, 52% XP, running the hardest content in the game pretty much, and pretty much never dying anymore because I was finally playing at 300% and I actually have physical damage reduction. It turned out that all of my deaths were because I was not playing at 300% and I only had 90% resist. But as you can see, it's probably one of the few builds that can consistently do delirium like max juice maps and survive, because at 4.5k ES you feel extremely tanky, and if you get another gem socket to put in fortify or steel skin, your character will be pretty much immortal, or it will feel really hard to kill you. But basically, character feels a lot better. Today we're going to talk about how to make the boots and helm, and I'm going to go over some of the gear choices I made that's changed. But let's get straight into the gear overview. My gear has remained relatively pretty much the same, and the big piece here is this pair of boots, which I will show everyone how to craft. Now, this pair of boots, I bought the suffixes as a base for around 18 exalts, and then I used some ashling, and suffixes cannot be changed, and I was able to get movement speed cannot be chilled. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here is that movement speed cannot be chilled is actually extremely important, and I was able to craft on cannot be frozen. So you see, yesterday I was using Kiara's determination, but now I swapped back to Cinder Swallow. Cinder Swallow is honestly just a flask that is too good if it can be used at all times. If you have enough clear speed, and that's like one of the things, like people mention how having like lower press of the flask will lead to a lack of clear speed meta. The opposite is true though. The more clear speed is needed, you need more and more clear speed in order to keep your flask up all the time. You can nerf the number of charges, but in the end, if you can clear the map faster and faster, your charges will always be up and your flask will always be up. So when I do the Juice Tropical Islands, the Cinder Swallow urn is almost always up, and it provides a nice layer of defense by allowing you to recover your energy shield when you kill an enemy. And sometimes you kill like 20 enemies, so that your ES immediately jumps up to 100% after it's at like half health. But the main thing to keep in mind is that you do need to be running like some pretty juiced maps in order to use the Cinder Swallow urn, or it just won't be up that much. So Nebulous, I'm unable to buy a new one. It will probably happen sooner or later. I kind of want to try to get a multi and crit chance for spells, but that's probably too hard. And the helmet, I did go over how I made it last time, but I will. So like pretty much when I teach you how to make the helmet and the boots and the helmet are pretty much the exact same crafting method. The only difference is for the chosen mod, for the ashling, for the helm you want +2 AoE gems, and for the boots you want movement speed and cannot be chilled. So basically this helmet is pretty much perfect outside of the suffix. I really wish I could have multi-modded this helm, because this helm is, if it had an empty prefix, I would be able to craft on projectiles, pierce, one additional target. And after playing with this build with having 2 pierce only, it's actually fine, I think. I thought it would be a lot worse after having played with the Void Walkers. It turns out that the main problem with my build before was just the lack of damage. And the lack of damage made it so that 5 pierce felt that it was really necessary. But after playing with these new boots and having more damage and just better gear overall, the 5 pierce is probably not really 100% needed at all, so I would definitely pick up this pair of boots and use 2 pierce for now. Now, you might notice I don't have a boot enchant at the moment. I am kind of too lazy to run lab, but if you're going to be doing mapping, you want 16% attack and cast speed if you've killed recently, and if you're doing bossing, you want 10% pen if you haven't killed recently. So it just depends on what type of content you're doing. Now, this amulet here, I am kind of trying to look for if I can get a vitality amulet. This amulet does make up a lot of my chaos res, so that's kind of hard to replace, but I do believe if I can get a Vitality Amulet with like T2 multi, it might be a worthwhile trade-off to try to get another gem socket in order to use like Fortify or Steel Skin, or maybe even run an extra aura like Dread Banner. But that's just something to keep in mind, is that you do not need to use the synthesized amulet. You can use a marble amulet, which will give you more life regen. However, it will be a lot more expensive to get multi. I think like people are selling the multi ones with vitality and reservation of skills for like 25-30x. Now, this Grace Prism Guardian is another thing that really suffers from how dead the league is. If you look at the Grand's level 23 Grace, not one item online. I think the one I bought was the last one that appeared. And I did pick it up for 17 exalts. However, I am afraid that nowadays, if you try to buy this item, it'll probably be like 30 to 40 exalts. Because if you think about it, the Call of the Brotherhood with the aura implicit saves the same purpose. So the Prism Guardian is pretty much the same price as the Call of the Brotherhood. And it's even rare to get Grace, because Grace is, there's only one out. You have to get Grace. There's no other auras that we would use. We don't want to use Discipline, because Discipline is on our gloves at level 28, and we won't use Determination. So if you think about it like that, the Prism Guardian theoretically should be around the same price as the Call of the Brotherhood, because it's a more expensive item, and not that many people would double corrupt it or corrupt Prism Guardians to begin with. So it will be a very, very limited supply due to the lack of players in this league. And that's like a common theme, right? The lack of players in this league makes gearing an ore stacker at the high end absolutely miserable. We pretty much have to craft all our gear. We have to corrupt all our gear. So it's pretty much like we're playing SSF with ourselves. So the Headhunter here, this is pretty much a mandatory belt if you want to do any juice maps. Especially now that I'm considering doing Tropical Islands and moving on to Valados to do some Nemesis Beyond, and we might try some of that tomorrow on stream. But this pair of gloves I'm very satisfied with. It's actually a complete steal at 4 exalts, and it turns out that the curse that's applied is the one at the beginning of the alphabet. For Flask, I did swap back to Cinder Swallow Urn. Now the rest of the tree, eventually I want to drop Sublime Form. I don't want to have this on forever, but long-term upgrades, they're going to be expensive. Might of the Meek probably needs RMR. Intuitive Leap needs RMR. That's already like 45 exalts. Not too happy to be spending that amount. Unnatural Instinct, probably not the best gem in the world. If in the end, I would probably want to drop it for more multi for damage. Like if I didn't have this jewel, I would probably have 40% multi, right? Or 35%. So a lot of it's just RMR. And then we get into the nasty business of RMR clusters. It might not be that expensive to get like RMR first amount of replenishing, but any of these like clusters at 35% is probably going to be too much money to try to get RMR. So we have a couple outs. Maybe some people will corrupt the Purposeful Harbingers and we'll be able to get some RMR there, but that's probably a little further down the line, right? So we have pretty much 2 or 3 first amount replenishings that we can corrupt for 3% RMR. Now, in the future, too, we could also consider upgrading our voices to 3 passive points. And we could theoretically use 2 3 passive point voices, which is probably more damage, and it allows us to get another jewel slot. So that's probably another upgrade that will happen. Now, the difference from 5 to 3 is actually 2 passive points, so you pretty much just have 2 passive points free here. So getting 3 passive point voices is actually very good, especially at the current price of around like 40-ish X. So you can see that there's a lot of upgrades left for this character, although they are all very prohibitively expensive. So this character I'll probably play a bit longer, maybe a week or so, before we move on to Spectral Shield Throw Aura Stacker. Although I did hear that the skill has horrible issues of targeting. But let's move on to the helmet crafting part. So in order to craft the helmet, we have to do something like we have to Maven Orb 2 things together, or only one thing. So you only need to use the Maven Orb on one item, which is the mana reservation. So for instance here, I'm just doing this as a tailwind for an example. So the way you look it up is you have to put 5% mana reservation, and then you have to look at it has 1 influence max. Because if it has too many influences, then we can't use the Awakener's Orb on it. And then you will pretty much just put out a list of all of the suffixes or prefixes that are Redeemer mods. So you can do this by going to Craft of Exile. You go look at your helmet. So here's the helmet that we want, an int base. And pretty much you'll do the search for the mana reservation, which is this skill, and then you would include all of these other searches in the parameters of chance to shock, chance to freeze, nearby enemies, mana regen, and then power charge on kill, and then you'll Maven Orbit. So it needs to have maximum, or it needs to have 2 of these Redeemer mods in order for you to Maven Orb. Because the way the Maven Orb works is it will choose one of the mods to get rid of. So let's just say we bought a helm that has T1. So you want to try to get T1 mana reservation if possible. Now on the prefix, you could try to get one that's has a good like elevated mod, but it doesn't really matter that much. That's more of like if you want to craft and save the most money possible, because you could sell off the base that fails. So we have the base right here, right? So we bought this because we looked it up. Not sure how much it usually goes for, probably like 30-40 chaos. So it doesn't really even matter. It's a hubris. This can be any base. It can be any item, because this is the one that we'll be using the Awakener's Orb on first. So now we take the Maven Orb, right? And we failed this, so we're screwed. So if we do this, we can try to sell this base, and then we have to go buy another one. But let's just say for this step, we didn't fail it because we owned. Okay, we failed it again. So you can see the step is kind of expensive. If possible, you can try to buy a 7% base already, but I don't think anyone's selling it because there's no one playing the league. So say you have this 7% base, right? So now let's export it. So it's really good to use Craft of Exile. It's a pretty good site to learn how to use, right? So we have this, we can copy and paste it. So now we need to restart and make a new helm. So now we want to get a helmet. So this is the helmet that the base actually matters. So we want to buy a Warlord's helm, or we can just buy a normal helm, right? So say we get this helm. So first we want to use some perfect fossils. This helm should have an enchant. So you want to buy this helm of a zealotry enchant or something like that. So we want to get this helm to 30% if possible. Now you don't need to do this step right away, as you can just get it later on with Katarina now. So you got 30% now, right? So because this is not a Warlord's thing, so it needs a Warlord's influence. So now we need to make it so that we exalt it with a Warlord exalt. So now we have this helm, which is a Warlord exalted helm. Now what we're looking for now is 20% crit multi. So the easiest way to do this is just re-roll crit with harvest. So now we didn't get it, so you can re-roll it again. It's a 1 in 3 chance. So now we got it, right? So for this base here, you need to make sure when you get this that the Warlord mod is the only one on there. It needs to be the only Warlord mod, just like the other helm is the only elevated mana mod or Redeemer mod. So now the magic happens. We use the Awakener's Orb, and then we paste the data from our other thing here. So we have to use the Awakener's Orb on the other helm with the elevated mana reserved, and then we awaken it onto this thing. So here, this is called very lucky, right? Because there's a lot of different outcomes when you do this hubris, and this is the outcome where you have an open suffix. And when you have an open suffix, that is actually very, very, very good. So what you can do with an open suffix is you can do suffixes cannot be changed as a prefix, and then you can do reforge as chaos, and this actually guarantees you a chaos res on it, right? Oh wait, I fucked up. Did I even craft it? Whoops, undo. Oh wait, so you can see you can mess up if I didn't craft it. So make sure you craft the suffixes cannot be changed, then you reforge chaos, and now you can see that you have T1 chaos res, which is extremely good. Now the problem with this helm now is that we need +2 AoE, and we don't have an open prefix. So what you need to do is go to harvest, reforge, keep suffixes, and use it until you get an open suffix, open prefix slot, right? So now we have the open prefix slot, and there's a few ways to go about this. The easiest way, in my opinion, if you don't really care about the helm being perfect, is to just craft on suffixes cannot be changed again, and this does cost 2 exalt per step. And then you want to use the Veiled Chaos Orb, which is here. The Veiled Chaos Orb, now we have a prefix, unveil, and now you can see we failed it, so we didn't get +2 AoE. So now we're screwed, but then you can always try it again, right? Because there's no like huge step to it. You just craft on suffixes cannot be changed and go again. So now we use the Veiled Chaos Orb again, and oh wait, whoops. So here we use the Veiled Chaos Orb, and let's see what we get. Unveil it. And we didn't get it again, right? So kind of unlucky. So we have to try it again. So we have the suffixes cannot be changed and unveiled chaos orb. But let's just say you unveil it. Does it always show the same thing? Undo, undo. Oh wait, so we do it again. We have +3 to minion gems somehow. But we finally got it. So this is the mod that we're looking for. +2 to AoE gems. And now pretty much all you can do for this helm is you benchcraft, you prefix, you want to get energy shield. Flat energy shield will give you the most, I think, over percent ES. So now we have the helm. This is actually a pretty good helm. 157 ES, +2 AoE gems. This is useless. The crit multi, reservation of skills, chaos res. Now another thing you can do is instead of the chaos res roll, like say right, you're at this step right here. You have an open suffix here, so you want to undo craft that. You can pretty much just use a beast craft, and you can do aspect of the spider, and that's just a suffix gone. Or you can do aspect of the avian if you're playing CI or planning on doing it. But if you do aspect of the spider, this crafting process is the same. You do the suffixes cannot be changed, and then you pretty much just pray for +2. There is another method that you could try doing, but it's really expensive. And that's when you craft on suffixes cannot be changed. You could reforge with cold, and this allows you to get like physical damage taken as cold hits. And then you would have to do suffixes cannot be changed and ashling it, right? So then you would do suffixes cannot be changed again. So you can see each one of these steps is pretty much 2 exalts. So this helm is not exactly the cheapest thing in the world to craft if you want to get lucky. And now you'll buy ashling unveil. So wait, ashling replace the ram. Oh wait, it can't have the suffixes cannot be changed, or well, I don't know. No space for more affixes unveil. I thought it would replace the random modifier. Maybe the ashling thing doesn't really work on this site, because it should allow you to what's it called, to use the ashling unveil on this. But regardless, I'm not sure. It should work, right? Because it has the suffixes cannot be changed, then you would just use the ashling exalt. Or maybe you need an empty prefix. I'm not too sure anymore. But regardless, this is another way of doing it, and then you have to gamble on. So let's just say that we did this again, reforge cold. Okay, so this time let's see if it actually works. Maybe you actually do need the open slot, so suffixes cannot be changed, and then you do ashling unveil. So now pretty much you're gambling on if you can hit off the suffixes cannot be changed craft, right? So actually you need an open prefix in order to do this. So then you gamble it, and then it did not hit off the suffixes cannot be changed. And this time it hit off the suffixes cannot be changed. So we got something, we unveil it. Did not get +2 AoE, so we're kind of screwed. So you can see that this is a very expensive step just to be able to deterministically get one of these mods. So the helm is not really that hard to craft, right? As long as you don't try to get some crazy stuff on a prefix, and you pretty much just do a veiled chaos orb. And if you fail it, you fail it, right? You fail it, you just go again, say like you didn't get it right. Then you pretty much just craft on suffixes cannot be changed again, and then you do it again until you get +2 AoE. And when you get +2 AoE, like this is a pretty interesting scenario. Then you would just craft on ES and then maybe exalt it, right? So you can craft on ES right here, and then you can bind Aug Influence if you really want it, because you think the helmet is good, and you pray, and then you get LE damage, and that's pretty good, right? So that's pretty much how you make the helm. The crafting cost is a lot cheaper than what you might be paying. So some people that try to charge like 30, 35x or 50x or whatever, these people pretty much are preying on that you don't know how to actually craft a helm, right? Some of them might be more expensive because this is an elevated one, but it's kind of a steep price to pay, 40x, and it's just cold red, so it's a useless suffix. I would probably not pay 40x for a helm. At most, I'd probably pay around like 25 to 30x if you don't want to craft it yourself. And the best enchant for the helm is Discipline, has reduced reservation, because when we empower our Discipline, it actually costs the most mana, so it is the best to actually have Discipline effect. Now this is kind of getting long, and I only went over the helmet, but the boots crafting process is the exact same. You pretty much elevate to get a Tailwind. You awaken orb to get an elevated Tailwind and elevated Onslaught. And then if you have a free prefix or suffix, then you just do the reforge with chaos, or you try to add an aspect onto it. And then you do suffixes cannot be changed and veiled chaos orb spam until you get the move speed cannot be chilled or another move speed mod that you want. And it actually ends up being pretty easy to craft. You actually don't even need to go through TFT, and it's a pretty easy experience. You're just in your hideout. Although you might be sad seeing all those exalts disappear from the crafting bench as you craft on suffixes cannot be changed over and over again. It costs 2x. Let's see, yeah, it's this craft right here, 2 exalts. But hopefully that helps you craft your own helmet and boots. There are actually huge increases in your ES and damage as you get Tailwind, which makes it feel better. And then you also get the helmet, which gives you more ES and 20% more multi. But hope that helps everyone out with the crafts.
Get lost inside my thoughts, and when I start to think, oh, the Tahoe closest starts to end up on the brink. I tried so hard, but all these scars, they cut so deep, I bleed. I fell so fast from heaven, it's like someone clipped my wings. Now I'm falling, and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Can we stop this gravity? 'Cause I wanna say goodbye. I laid awake just begging to let go. I almost got to suicidal thoughts, but you stepped in. An angel sent from heaven showed me how to live again. Now I'm falling.
I hope that everyone enjoyed the clip of the Sirus. It's actually the first time I've ever seen Sirus just completely run away and book it. Probably the first kill ever with Sirus in the storm, and I don't know what he was doing, but basically here, 276 splinters. This is the new record. Unable to really get much more than this without more juice, but 276, I'd take it, right? 276 with no real scarabs or super juice. Did get lucky with all where the alvas are, and we did learn one thing, which is that the layout of the map matters a lot. So I don't know if I show it here. Let's see if I show it here. But basically, the longer the map is, the better it is for the whole like number of splinters that you get. So sometimes when you do the tropical island, it has a lot of like turns in it compared to like normal. So you want a map that's like a straight shot down like this, and then the other one also like this, and that will give you the most splinters. And some tropical islands are just shorter than other ones, so the longer the map is, the better it is in terms of length. So that's pretty much about it for the the tropical island update for the splinter count. I can't get over 276, but 300 is, it's probably gonna happen sooner or later, right? I am getting closer and closer as I get better and better gear, but this method is kind of like falling off in my opinion a little bit. It comes down to whether simulacrums will hold their price for long, because I don't really know if they'll go below 4x or 1x each. Because right now at 1x each, it's like good, but it's not the greatest profit margin in the game. So I think a big thing that I might end up doing, and I will showcase in the coming videos, is Valdos and trying this area out still with King Harbingers. Because King Harbingers are nerfed, but they're not nerfed as much as you may think. Because the nerf of the King Harbingers is kind of offset by the fact that Harbinger Scarabs are so cheap and that Nemesis Sextons are so cheap. So be on the lookout because this might be the next big farm tactic besides Tropical Island. But thanks everyone for watching. I hope the guide helped you out in crafting the helmet. I do think the best way to do it is to just do suffixes cannot be changed and use a Veiled Chaos Orb, unless you're going for a helmet that's already perfect, that has already good suffixes. Like if your helmet doesn't have another good suffix on it, then don't try to like craft the perfect helmet and just stick to suffixes cannot be changed and Veiled Chaos Orb. But thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do, and see you next time, and goodbye.